Today, we're tackling a topic that hits close to home for many of us: starting something new and dealing with the discomfort of not being good at it right away. Now let's get into it. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to excel at everything they do? They can cook, hold down a successful career, stay fit, have a deep knowledge of art and books. Basically, they make life look effortless. Then there's the other group, those who try, stumble, and retreat. It seems like they can't ever get it right. They might blame genetics, environment, or a lack of opportunity. And while these factors can play a role, they aren't the deciding factor. The truth is, those who seem to excel at everything aren't born with some magical ability to avoid failure. The real difference is that they aren't afraid to be bad at something in the beginning. They've learned to embrace the discomfort of being a beginner and push through it. It's not about being perfect on the first try. It's about being willing to look awkward, make mistakes, and most importantly, keep going. When we start something new, the reality is that we will suck at it. That's not a flaw. It's part of the process. And yet, so many people quit at this stage because they can't handle not being immediately good at it. Why? Often, it's less about wanting to be perfect and more about the fear of looking incompetent in front of others or even ourselves. It's not really about perfectionism, it's about ego. Let's be honest. No one enjoys looking foolish or feeling exposed, especially in front of others. We want to impress people. We want to seem capable and talented because it makes us feel valuable and worthy. But the truth is, this need for approval can trap us. When we try to be good at something new and fail, we often don't just see it as failing at a skill, we see it as failing as a person. And that's where the trouble begins. It's not the act of sucking at something that hurts. It's the fear of what others might think if they see us struggle. The fear of being judged, ridiculed, or labeled as inadequate is what stops most people from even trying. And the more we avoid these situations, the more we reinforce the idea that our worth is tied to our abilities. There's a simple but powerful truth here. The people who are great at something weren't always great. They became great because they were willing to be terrible at first. They pushed through those uncomfortable, awkward beginnings because they understood that's where the real growth happens. Sure, you'll hear all the standard advice. Embrace a growth mindset, set realistic expectations, and don't compare yourself to others. And while that's good advice, let's cut through the fluff for a moment and keep it real. Nobody actually cares if you suck at something. Everyone else is too busy worrying about their own stuff to really notice or judge you as much as you think they are. Once you realize this, it's incredibly freeing. Being bad at something new doesn't mean you're bad at everything. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you're a beginner, just like every single person was at some point. Think about it. Do you judge a toddler for stumbling when they're learning to walk? Of course not. So why do we judge ourselves so harshly when we stumble as adults? Our problem is that we tie our identity and self-worth to our abilities. We think that being bad at something means we're bad. But life isn't that serious. You're allowed to mess up. You're allowed to be clumsy, awkward, and make mistakes. Because if you never let yourself fail, you'll never give yourself the chance to improve. If you're new to something, take a step back and drop the expectations. Let yourself have fun with the process. It's okay to laugh at your mistakes. It's okay to feel a bit embarrassed. Those feelings are natural, but they don't have to stop you. When you're willing to suck, you're also willing to learn. You're open to feedback, new experiences, and the messiness of growth. And guess what? That's what ultimately separates the people who succeed from the people who quit. So here's your challenge. Pick something you've been avoiding because you're afraid of looking bad at it. Maybe it's dancing, painting, learning a new language, or even speaking up in meetings. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to be terrible at it. Allow yourself to show up, stumble, and keep showing up again. The next time you feel that fear of judgment creeping in, remind yourself that nobody is watching as closely as you think. And even if they are, so what? Their opinion of your abilities has no impact on your worth. The only thing that matters is whether you're willing to keep going. Because when you stick it out, something magical happens. You start to get better. Slowly, awkwardly, almost imperceptibly at first, but it happens. And before you know it, you've crossed the threshold from terrible to not so bad. Then from not so bad to kind of good. And eventually, you might even become great. Everyone sucks at the start, everyone. What matters is whether you're willing to endure the discomfort of sucking long enough to become someone who doesn't. So go on, get out there, and suck at something new today. You're already braver than most just by trying. Until next time, embrace the awkward, keep showing up, and remember, you've got this.